Welcome to this week's episode of Courageous Leaders Changing the World. I'm really excited to have this week's guest. He's the guest that just makes you go, Lino Hola.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for having us.
So the name of the podcast is called Courageous Leaders Changing the World. What's the time in your life where you had to summon the most courage?
Where do we start? The long list. Moving houses, separating from my daughter's mother, stepping into fatherhood time and time again. That one's definitely, fatherhood is courage, right? Especially when you are stepping into fatherhood in ways that weren't role modeled to you as well. Business, a lot of courage there. Breakdowns, breakthroughs, doing things that I'd never done before. That's really, was how we ended up working together. It's like, you know what? You're going to have to do something you've never done before, right? Because what you're wanting to do is a level that you've never done before, get support, right? And, courage was really my whole experience of working with you, because you were always getting me to do things I'd never done before, So I feel like courage is just the essence of my life, really.
Great, we've got the perfect guest there.
Yeah.
What do you think is the experience where it's been the thing that you've had to summon the most of it, though?
The experience where I've had to summon the most was fatherhood. Definitely fatherhood, which is possibly why it's so close to my heart and such a big part of my being, because it's the role that's given me the most. It's the role that's transformed me the most. The breakdown of the relationship between my daughter's mother and I, the initial separation, that required courage to even leave, to move out, right? That took courage. Then when it came time for me to stop having housemates, like the first time I realized I actually have to go and get a place myself, that was a lot of courage, because I'd actually never done it before. I'd stayed by myself, but I'd never lived by myself before. That was a whole different world for me. And then relationship with Sarah, really pursuing a long-term relationship to build a lifelong relationship towards marriage. So it wasn't even just about sharing life with somebody. It was also about pursuing marriage. It's like, is this what I'm going to do? So those were the times that really stood out to me, where I guess that moved me forward. The times that I was in my depth, there was courage there, but those are the ones that stood out to me the most.
Yeah, great. In the work that you do, how do you help people kind of, especially men, face off with their fears then?
Oh, interesting podcast. Courage.
Yeah.
Like the fear is always there. One thing I say to everyone I work with, but I predominantly work with men, is no one cares. The truth is no one cares. And what I mean by that is the story that your perception of where it is and what reality is are two completely different things more often than not, right? And in the face of fear is usually what's filling that space, right? Courage only comes in the presence of fear. And that fear of what you're perceiving to be where something is at, it's not as big as what you think it is, right? And the truth is, all the stories you're telling yourself, you think everyone cares. No one cares more than you, right? And it's not as big as what you think it is. And I've had this conversation multiple times this week, right? The stories that you're telling yourself, like that's where your limitation is. And it sounds, I guess quite cliche, but, coming from the fitness industry and now doing the work that I do right now, there was a lot of stories. I thought this is the way it is. And maybe that's the conversations I've had this week has been with, other coaches and other trainers. It's about delivering the sessions. How many sessions do I have to need? How much can I charge? And I was just like, there's a level of coaching that is accessible to you that you are yet to realize, right? But when I was in your shoes, I could only see it the way that you saw it as well. And that mindset shift, it takes courage to be able to go there, and it's only this far apart, but it's thick, right? Like there's a lot to move in that short space.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That, that block that we have that is just keeping us, so close yet so far, is the hardest thing to be able to break through with. So your journey has been, coming from the fitness industry, coming into the personal development industry, and now starting to expand back with some ties back to the fitness industry. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey and what you're creating now?
Well, we're creating, I guess, men's medicine is my primary, business community. I originally started off with coaching prior to men's medicine, which was like close to a decade ago. And then before that was just solely personal training. One-to-one personal training, group fitness. I had a boot camp business for 10 years and realizing it didn't turn into the thing that I thought it would turn into. I'm moving towards marriage. I need to be more available for not just my marriage, but also building a family as well. So it's time to give that face-to-face group model away and learn to transition online. And at that time, that was really difficult for me to conceive. I didn't really understand coaching outside of strength and conditioning coaching or comp prep coaching. I'm like, I'm neither, right? So I let go of boot camps, start to make the work online, transition online, and I'm predominantly working with Polynesian people at that stage. Eventually, I start to realize that it's very niche, right? And I'm not as passionate about that specific niche as what I thought I was. And I guess it's because I live in a certain way, and I'm not in a Polynesian community either. So, okay, cool, sort of let that go. Then also acknowledging majority of my clients were female. As I keep on going, I ask myself this question, how do I actually help people? Because at this stage, I've been in the industry for a decade. Started in personal training in the health and fitness industry 2003. It's 2025 right now. Right? At that stage, it might have been, I don't know, maybe like 2013, 2014, maybe 2015. Anyway, I identify that's who my current market is, and now I'm coaching, groups of women online as well. Then I'm asking myself, how long am I going to be on the floor for? How long am I going to be doing in-person, one-on-one, PT? Also, how do I even help people? It's like, it's definitely not the workouts, right? And it's definitely not the meal plans because they're pretty standard. I'm like, well, I help people by talking to them. I find that if I help people talk to people about their lives, they have a tendency to actually want to train and stick to the meal plan. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll go down the mindset route. So that took me down the mindset route, NLP, hypnosis. And then when I started doing coaching, with this skill set, breakthrough sessions, back then, they were like hours long. Then we're also talking to people that have never done this work before. How do we even get them into the room? Then I sort of ended up, going to workshops and the rest of that sort of thing. I'm like, okay, this is all starting to make a little bit more sense to me right now. The model that I've been doing doesn't work and it's too slow. This is going to help me move a little faster. Then takes me down spirituality, breathwork, and all the rest of these sorts of things. And then men's medicine evolved by me wanting to help someone else. And then within 30 days, my business flipped from 90% women to now 90% men. And at that point, men's medicine started to build, which is predominantly in the mental health and the personal development space. Throughout my whole time of doing men's medicine, it's quite deep, right? Trauma work is not small, yeah? I'm a solutions guy, so I'm always looking for better solutions. When we go that deep, there's only so far you can kind of go wide. And look, I want to help everybody, right? You know this, right? I want to help people, right? For me, I think everything's possible. But if you're going that deep, there's only so far you can go and only so fast you can go. And I remember asking, I was staying at Visu's place, right? And Sarah and I were going to this couples workshop. And just before we went, or at the time we were staying there, I sort of said to him, I said, do you know what? If everyone had this skill set, breath work, and had the ability to regulate their own nervous systems, I think the world would be a different place. And I said, you know what, bro? I think Soma breath would be a really great, style of breath that it's accessible to all people. Rhythmic breathing is. As well as I feel that the fitness industry could be a great vehicle for that, because I believe that the world is massively influenced by the fitness industry and hip hop culture. Right? Society is massively influenced, by this. And I'm thinking this could be a great vehicle for breath. Interestingly enough, I don't believe that it currently exists in the fitness industry. So that I posed that question to him back in 2020 or 2021. It's 2025 now. That has been sitting in the back of my mind throughout that time. Then, when we're working with clients and we're doing coaching, where are we going to do those consults? Where are we going to do those coaching sessions? Predominantly online. Where do we go if we don't have a place? So, funnily enough, where we are right now, my friend owns this place and he had a room. Hey, bro, am I able to use your room? He goes, yeah, cool. So I was actually doing one-on-one clients here in the room that's at the back. And I decked it out, lights, bolsters, yoga mats, all the rest of that sort of stuff. And I was telling my current business partner, bro, he's like, what are you up to? I said, I should put this breathing room, together. I said, wouldn't it be great if there was just a breathing room everywhere? I said, gyms would be a really great place for that because there's so many hours of the day where nothing is going on. And he goes, so I said, so I've got this warehouse where I've built this breathing room. And then he says, bro, say less. I'm in. So that's where it's sort of evolved. And the way I look at it is men's medicine is designed for the deep stuff. The question is, what about everyone else? Well, what TBR serves is, the breathe room, is it serves the greater masses. And the reason why it's able to serve the bigger masses because we only go so deep. I've controlled it. I've set it up with formulas, frameworks, and a model, right? And I have to thank you for this because I know what we've built, no one sees or no one's done. And I've spoken to a few other breathwork facilitators and business owners, and they've looked at this and DJs to get music for what we've built, and they've gone, wow, I've never seen it like this before. And I said, I know, right? Working with you on models allowed me to see this in a way that I've never seen. I couldn't have seen it before. So the whole system is built on a model. I was having this conversation over breakfast with our business partners, and they said they talked to two other people about breathwork, and they said, "Oh, you're their competitors," and I said, "Yes, but no, because we got a model. We got a model which is actually a system that takes you from start to finish. Because right now, what's happening is it's very much like the fitness industry." Plenty of people are getting certified in Cert 3, Cert 4 for personal training. Very few, let's say half of them, start a business, right? And they are the owners of Clean Health Education. I said, how many people do you think get certified in personal training a year? She said, maybe 50,000. I said, how many of them actually start a business? She said, maybe 50%. I said, out of the 50% that start, how many do you think that are actually still doing it 12 months later? She goes, very few. I said, what do you think the lifespan of a personal trainer is? She goes, 2 years is kind of like max. I said, breathwork facilitation is very much the same. Plenty getting certified, getting qualified in it, very few starting businesses, and very few being able to make it part of their actual life. We have integrated that into our system because what they're struggling to do is work out, how do I make this thing work in my life? So I hope that answers your question. That was quite a long answer.
I don't remember what the question was, but I love the journey.
Yeah, right? It was the question about TBR and the journey, behind it. But it was that whole being inside of men's medicine for so long, you see problems. The way I look at problems is there's only so long you can look at a problem before you now become part of the problem. Kind of the analogy I use is, let's say you're in a relationship or you live in a share house and the rubbish is full. You walk past it, someone else might pick it up. You walk past it again, you're choosing to leave it there, right? There's only so many times I can look at so many problems before I realize I'm now accepting these problems because I'm not contributing to the solution, right? So as you might know, just like yours, my mind's always sort of ticking, solutions. And this is, one of the solutions that we're using to help contribute to society, to help regulate nervous systems and access this tool so people can have it for themselves.
Love it. What's the big vision with TBR then?
What I feel is this doesn't exist worldwide. Breathwork currently, I feel, doesn't exist inside the fitness industry, not only in Australia, but I believe worldwide. One of the problems that I feel is that when you get a breathwork facilitator to come in to run a class, unless they've all learned from the same people, you don't really know what you're getting, right? Then we think about a gym timetable. The class goes for an hour. Knowing that your facilitator or your breathwork coach that you've got on board to facilitate this class has the skills to be able to deliver a breathwork class in that 1 hour time frame or time slot, as well as provide enough variety that they can do this week in, week out, and that participants and members continue to want to come back. That's one part. The other part is, let's say on the participant, the current way that I see that you can access breathwork is by attending an event or that you work with a breathwork coach. Let's say, and most people, you get triggered during the week, but I've got to wait till the end of the week or the end of the month or in a couple of weeks' time to actually attend a breathwork session. It's too far away. But if your local gym has it up on their timetable, right, I know that I can also go and access that class. And if everyone is learning from the same system, then we also know where they're learning it from and what we're also getting as well. That's why I'm sort of looking at it with that. With TBR, the confidence that it also gives the gyms is they also know what they're getting. Because right now, if you're a gym chain or a gym owner and you wanted to get a breathwork coach, and this coach comes in and maybe you have 3 different breathwork coaches and they've all learned from 3 different places, how do you know what you're getting? Let's say they're more about trauma-informed breathwork. You've got a 1 hour time frame. And let's say it's a morning class, Monday morning. Come in, deliver the session, finish just before the time's up, right? Not enough time for integration. Everyone's been activated. Everyone's going through their process. And it's like, okay, cool. Functional strength are coming in now. I'm just like, I'm still in my process, right? It's poor duty of care, which is why we built it on a model.
I love that. Yeah. Most people know how much of a proponent of models I am, but it's great to always get the reflection of it as well. What have been some of those like inflection points in your life in the transitions of, from, men's medicine and TBR? What have been some of the initiation points with some of those pieces?
I feel like it's been an initiation every year, that we've evolved every year. We started with walks, simply just with men. Then we opened up to women, and that was an initiation. I'll always do recon and I'll always test something before I do it. I need to get a bit of a feel, with it. Definitely bringing the women in was an initiation. Then expanding. At that point, we were only doing outdoor events, then doing workshops in person. I'm like, how do I get this to translate over to this? That was an initiation. I remember the first time I did it, I was like, yeah, that's cool, but I can see how we can do this better next time. Then expanding that to couples. That was an initiation, moving from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, and I'm a progressive person, so I want to know that I'm always sort of growing. So at that point, couples workshops and women's walks was 2020, and then 2021, because we'd all been locked down in 2020, when the borders lifted in 2021, I was like, I'm just going to say yes to everything. Right. And that initiated me. Right. Because at that point we did 13 walks over 6 months in 2019. And then in 2020, we did 15 walks. We did 2 couples workshops. So I've done more events in 2020 than what I did in 2019. And that was in the first year of the pandemic. When the borders got lifted, I'm like, you know what? I don't know what they're going to do with restrictions. So whatever's available to us, my answer is yes. If I did 17 events in the whole year of 2020, by Easter 2021, I'd done 22 events or something. By the end of that year, I had done 65 events, I think it was, in 2021. So being the progressive person that I am, in comes 2022. What are we going to do this year? So I put out all of these plans. I go through the first quarter. Okay, cool. I'm doing the same thing that I did last year, right? I'm up at 24 events by Easter again. I'm like, that's not progression to me. I've run the same play that I did the year before. Okay, you're going to have to be smarter and make some different decisions over this last quarter. And as that last quarter came to an end, I was like, okay, I don't know how to do what I've put up on that wall, right? And I'm like, who do I know that can help me with this? In comes, this conversation that we've had and where we started working together. When we started working together, it didn't just expand. Like, it ridiculously grew. And I remember when we started working together, because the nature of look, I did 65 events in 2021. In 2022, when I started my programs and retreats, I bit off as much as I could. I did 2 at the same time, right? And it sold out, right? But I didn't know how to do that before we started working together. But I know I'm always going to say yes, right? And I'll work it out as we go. Yeah. As long as I've got good people behind me, the courage in me will always come through. I'll work it out. That has been my life story. I will work it out. And whatever's needed from me, I will position myself so that I can answer it and work it out when I need as well. I've learned there's definitely a lot of value in preparation, right? Where the more preparation I gave myself, I knew that I was actually able to achieve more as well. So when that happened and we did that, I was so proud that I was able to make that transition, because it told me, I feel emotional about this, that I was able to provide for my family's future in a way that I hadn't before. Because I'd done the trading time for money thing purely where I was just doing I was doing nothing different to what I did in personal training, right? 65 events. I'd worked with maybe a couple of thousand people that year myself. I ran them all myself, 2, 3, sometimes 4 events in a week, right? People go, how do you do that? I said, the amount of people that were asking for me was people didn't stop asking me, and I didn't stop saying yes. But I knew if I didn't stop saying yes to everything, I was going to burn out. Need a better plan. You were going to have to learn how to scale online, Lino. Otherwise, you are going to get caught out. So, okay, cool. Get my thinking cap on. Yeah. So the initiation into that, every time I've had to bring in a new offering or that the community needed more from me, that initiated me.
I love that. What the common theme there is just every single time that you change, how you work with people, it creates this expansion of the capacity of how people can work with you and how people can grow. And most people don't see that about business. They don't see that, how you actually have your business set up is going to determine, number one, what you can receive from the business, but also number two, what you can actually create as a legacy out there in the world. And hearing each time that you've actually been through that, that's been a beautiful journey of, it's like this recognition of how important it is to go through that again and 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 again. And when I see most people out there doing coaching out there, they don't go through those initiations, or they do it every 3 or 4 years, which is why their trajectory is so slow. And part of your success is your willingness to be able to do that year in, year out, year in, year out. And seeing that next evolution of that, it means that, what happens is you have the massive growth, but then you also have the next massive growth as well, which is what most people don't do. And I see that already in terms of how the business is set up with TBR and how men's medicine is growing and all of those things. It's on that next growth curve already, which, comes with a couple of things. There's always the people that are the true fans, and then also the haters. I'd love to hear what your experience is with haters.
Do you know what's interesting? It's been so long since that happened. At the beginning of men's medicine, we had one troll. We had a few comments at the very, very beginning, because when we started men's medicine, there was nothing, I didn't see anything like that out there. We also didn't know what we were building as well. So when we put that first video out there, it went viral within 24 hours, over 100,000 views, and it went international. We were getting response from the UK, Ireland, the States, obviously New Zealand. So many different places we were getting people sending us messages from and responding and giving us feedback about this. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is the thing. I was automatically, geez, my PT career is going to be dead. This is like coming to an end. I told myself, don't quit your day job. Do not quit your day job just yet. Redline this and stay with this as long as you can until you have to shift. COVID forced me, right? 15 years in personal training, like crashed, done, it's over. Wow, I didn't expect it to happen like that. Then when we first sort of started, because people hadn't seen it, anything like it, they had something to say. Then at this one event, one guy, it just sort of moved him in this way that didn't sit right with him, right? And he ended up getting up and he ended up leaving. Now, later on that day, I see these messages, right? And these messages are sending me messages, or our IG account, around Kundalini energy and how it welcomes in, dark spirits. And I was just like, wow, you got that from a meditation. You were in a meditation, you decided to leave, you're sending me this right now. This is what it's activated you to send me. And I was just like, okay. Then he became our troll. And he would set up multiple different accounts to troll us. And I was just like, wow, Jesus needs to save you. All the rest of these sorts of things. And I was just thinking to myself, when I'm at church, there is nothing about the work that we do that makes me kind of feel this way. Even the conversation where some of the participants had asked, this was, some people kind of say this is a bit of a cult. I said, look, let's break this on down. What are we doing out here? We're going for a walk. So we're hiking. We're looking at each other. There's a bit of an eye gaze. There's a bit of a hug going on. We're breathing. We're talking to each other. Some men, they're unpacking some stuff. They're a bit emotional. Do I look like a cult leader to you? And they go, no. Does this feel like a cult to you? They go, no. I said, there you go. That's where it's at. That is the full extent of what it's really kind of ever been in terms of the hate or the trolls. There was definitely a lot of disruption through, the breakdown at the beginning when there was the separation. Outside of that, in terms of hate, if anyone hates me, I don't know them. Yeah, but I'm sure they exist. They're just not in any of my circles. I don't know them. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. One of the things that you spoke to there was the integration between different parts of your life. Like you go to church, but you're also, the breathwork guy.
Yes.
How do you be able to hold both of those things? Because in many instances, a lot of the people are like all God or all personal development.
Yeah.
And, it's like, if you're not going to church, you're the devil. Or if you're if you're going to church, then you're a born again Christian. It's like, how do you bring forth integration of being able to have both of those parts of you?
Growing up in church, this is a relevant conversation because I'm having this conversation with my daughter who wants to get baptized right now. as a child, she was christened at the same church that I went to, that I'm part of, our whole family are part of. I got christened at that church, and all of my siblings, we all got christened at the same church, same as my son. Now, she wants to get baptized again, and the conversation is, you've already been christened. And what I spoke to her about was to let her know about who our family are and the family that she comes from and the story of our lineage and her parents, grandparents, and her great-grandparents and all the rest of that sort of stuff. Tonga, which is, both of my parents are from Tonga. Yeah, Tonga is a strongly Christian-based nation, right? We're also our own democracy as well. As much as we're part of the monarchy, we have our own, of the Commonwealth, we have our own monarchy. But way back at the very, very beginning, Tonga gave themselves, so in Tongan language, T sounds like a D. So Tonga gave our country to God, right? That is what we all sort of live by. So I grew up like this, right? The same church that I went to is the same church that my grandfather was part of starting here in Australia. And my uncle's a pastor, so it's strong in my culture. So I grew up, with this. I didn't grow up with the work that I do at Men's Medicine. It was a natural byproduct of where I was at my life and with the people that are around me. And like I said, my answer to everything is yes. So people want me to help them. I'm like, if this resonates with you, yeah, sure, we can do this. Now, I had no idea it would become my life, right? When I think about my life, as a Christian, and with the work that we do at Men's Medicine, I very clearly remember a time when we were in New Zealand. And one of these walks that we were doing, it was much shorter than what we did back over here and all of the other walks as well. The original walk that we used to do was about 20 kilometers long. Now, I was under the idea that's how long all the walks had to be. So whether we were in Sydney, Melbourne, Hamilton in New Zealand or Hawke's Bay, when we got to Auckland, that walk that we did the recon for was only 10 kilometers long. So I'm like, what are we going to do here? I said, we're going to breathe longer. Today, this session is going to go for about an hour. They're like, are you sure? I'm like, yes. At this stage, I'd facilitated so many. I was like, this is where we're at, right? At the end of that, it was like this godly moment where the clouds opened up and it was the end of the breath work and the sun broke through the clouds. New Zealand's not Australia where everything can kill you and bite you. Everyone is out on the grass. There's a waterfall behind us. The sun breaks through the clouds. Right at the end, the last track, Spirit Bird starts playing. Just before I decide that I've got two choices, Hallelujah or Spirit Bird. And I'm like, bang. And as that sort of happened, and I noticed, everyone's energy sort of shifted and changed. And I looked around and all of the facilitation team looked to the sun. And in that moment, what I thought to myself was, this is God's work. Not God's work because I say this is God's work because everyone that is coming to us for our support, it's because someone in their life that was supposed to do this for them didn't do that for them. We just so happen to be these people that are helping do that for them or provide the space for them that wasn't provided for them. And this is what God wants me to do. Provide the space for people to have their needs met. That's the way that I look at the work that we do. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, so it answers it to a certain extent. And how do you live your life having both parts of that? So you have the church side of you and the spiritual side of you. So there's pieces of that, but how do you live your entire life being both of those things? Because many people are all one or the other. It's like, and there's lots of clashing in the industry with people. It's just like, okay, you have to be God-led now. And now that I'm God-led, I'm not doing any of those other spiritual things.
My stance says who? Who? Society? I think everyone has a well-functioning brain between the 8 inches between their ears, right? We have the ability to critically think for ourselves. I think it's up to us and important for us to know what's for us and what's not for us. I know the lengths and the depths that we will go with men's medicine. And for me, we go as far as what's needed, no more, no less, right? Where the more is needed, that's where a lot of courage comes in. Where the less is needed, that's where your wisdom comes in. Know when enough is enough, and know where to stop. Know what's for you, know what's not for you. When it comes to Christianity, this is my personal relationship with God, right? I have no desire to tell anybody that believes in any other faith that their God is not the right God, or that my God is the right God for them. What I do know is what my relationship with God is, and this is a constant daily conversation that I have for myself. And then as the same as what Tonga has given our country and our nation and our people to God, that is what I have committed myself and my family to as well. I also know what's for me and not for me when it comes to the church as well, right? I go to church, that's my own personal relationship. Whatever anyone else is for, therefore, it's completely up to them. Now, my daughter, she's deeply connected to the church, right? And I've been having deep conversations with her, or important conversations, as her father. She's in a relationship right now, right? And as all relationships, they evolve, they progress, they grow, they intensify. And just having conversations about, what matters to her, right? And understanding her own values, right? And that when we're going through adolescence, our hormones can make us feel a whole bunch of different ways. I would hate to think that you would compromise your own values because you're feeling these hormonal urges or physical urges, or your chemistry is shifting and changing, making your physiology want to do something, and yet your values are here. Right? And I feel like this is where our work always is, right? We're feeling something pull us towards something. Doesn't mean it's true. Just because you're angry at someone doesn't mean you should lash out at them, right? Just because you feel compelled to be a certain way doesn't mean that you should act upon it. Just let's take a moment. Let's assess this for a little bit. Is this in alignment with what matters to you, right? So I've been having that sort of conversation with her, and what I said to her was, I love that she is so deeply connected to the church, and I love the church that we're part of, right? However, her commitment to it is her commitment, and my commitment, I know the depth and the level that I'm committed, right? Attending church, taking my family there, that's for me. Connect groups isn't for me. That's where it sits with me. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Men's medicine, we take it as far, we go as far as we need to, no more, no less. Christianity, the church, it's a personal relationship for me. Where it stops for me is it's me and my family. My daughter can do what she wants, whatever my wife wants to do, what she wants. But that's where I stand with my relationship with it. Outside of that, it's always been a part of me in my life.
Yeah. What's the area where you're kind of facing off with courage the most right now?
To lead my family forward into this next chapter. Being the father of 3 is very different to 2 and 1. Not a little bit different, like a lot different. And I feel that we live in a different time as well. Like where we were at the beginning of the pandemic, that was the same year that we had our son. Where I am 4 years later, my daughter's 19, my son is 4, turning 5 this year, level 3 nonverbal on the spectrum. And then our newborn that I delivered 4.5 weeks ago, right? They're all completely different. For me, and you know how important fatherhood is to me, right? I never want them to ever feel like I'm not there or their needs aren't being met. Like for me, like that's on me. The way I look at family is that no one gets more time from me than my family. It just doesn't make any sense. As much as I love my purpose in our work, the whole premise of anything I do is based on family values. The whole purpose of men's medicine is to help people, men be better for themselves, which allows them to show up better in relationships and their families as well. as well as live a life of purpose. The whole point of TBR is to help people be able to regulate themselves, give them a tool that they can use for themselves so they can be better in society. As much as this is meaningful to me, it's not more meaningful than my own personal family. So trying to navigate my way through all of that and ensure that I'm moving my family forward and meeting their needs as well as my own, that's felt like a big task. I reckon last week it took me like all week, and then I eventually put it down. I love spreadsheets. I eventually put it out on the spreadsheet, and I showed it, said, Sarah, babe, come let me show you. And I showed it to her, and she goes, what? I said, look, I had to get it out of my head, what's actually going on. And then she said, wow, you've got a lot going on. I said, yeah, I couldn't work out why my brain felt like scrambled eggs. This is why. So that's the current part.
Yeah. How important is it, do you think, for people to be able to, in that instance, what you're doing is really externalizing it, right? So it's like it's all of the things that are looping in your head, all of the things which are just cycling around. How important is it for people to be able to then be able to externalize that, whether that's in a spreadsheet or in a conversation or any of those things?
I think it's important to the point where is it hindering you, right? If it's in your head and it's causing you no problems, cool, right? Maybe it's not at the place where you need to take action. But if you're finding yourself procrastinating, right, and it's inhibiting your ability to take action, and that's where I was definitely finding myself. It was just kind of like, where am I at? Like, what are we working on today? And that just kind of went on for a couple of days. I'm just like, you know what, today, just stop. Just stop. Because while I'm working on this thing, there's a whole bunch of other things. Let me just throw it all down, organize it, make some sense of this. And then, like I said before, we don't go any further than what we need to and no less than we need to. When I mapped it out, I'm like, okay, cool. How far will I take each of these areas that are inside of my life? I think it's important for me to know where the boundary is. I'm like, okay, cool. This stops here. This stops here. This has this much. That there. Am I happy with that? Yes. I'll revisit this later.
Yeah, I love that. I've got a call today with one of my other clients, and he does the quarterly review. He does it like every single quarter, reviews his entire life. He goes, all right, cool. Let's see where it's at. Let's see how it's going. Let's see if we need to be able to change some of those areas, make it a little bit bigger for the next season or the next quarter. Do I need to be able to make this one a little bit smaller? What do I need to focus on? Mm-hmm. And when we have that feedback loop of actually starting to go, okay, cool. Well, where am I at? Where is everything that's going on? Let's take a step back. Let's zoom out for a minute so that I can actually see what's going on, because otherwise I'm just got my head in it too much and I just get lost in it all. I get lost in the minutiae. I get lost in all the details. I get lost in all of it. If I can take that time to be able to take a step back, then everything starts to open up for me. Then I'm no longer in the emotion of it. I can actually just like be with it and actually start to see everything that's playing out. So see, that is critical.
I like what you said there about being in the emotion of it. One thing that comes to mind, one of the parts that I needed courage was become apparent to me. Like, we've been doing men's medicine for like 6 years now. Coaching industry, almost like 10 years. We're at this point, and I spoke about me being a progressive person and mapping all of this out. I got to a point where I realized, and especially because I partnered up and I've had multiple business partners. So when I went into TBR, that idea that I'd had, and my business partner was like, bro, say less. That was me and him partnering up together. And like, that took courage for me to do that. Then for us, we joined into that joint venture with Clean Health, right? It wasn't as like much courage. I was excited about that. When I mapped everything out, what I realized was I'm at a stage in my career where I need partners because people have not stopped asking for me. And I'm just one man. And the fact that I believe that it's possible to help all people. I want to say yes to all things. And I'm like, you can say yes, right? But you're going to have a different approach. And when I looked at it, I'm like, okay, that's me, because it's my personal brand that drives all the other things. What I've realized is everyone that's reached out to me, they want me, right? Like they They want the voice, right? So this part here is important. Men's medicine is for the community. TBR is AB and I with clean health. And then I actually started a business with my daughter because she's been working for us.
How did I know that would happen?
Yeah. So she's been working for us. And I was like, when she works for the church, because she's on the media team, she's so passionate about it. When she does the same for us, she enjoys it. But the quality of work and her level of ambition to do that work with us, it started off strong at the beginning, but it's not the same level of passion she has when she does it for the church. So I had this idea and this concept come up, and I shared it with her, and I said, what do you think about this? And then later that night, I'm like, this is a great business idea. Maybe she'd like to go into business, and maybe this is how I can help her help herself, and this thing can be for her. So we started business together last week, and it's called Give, Pray, Fast. So that one, keep an eye out for that one. And then something for our Pacifica people. And Frankie and I'm off to Frankie's house today. We've got a men's retreat. As you know me, I got one this week. I got one next week, right? We won't do things in small doses, but something for our people, for our Pacifica people. Like, I don't want to do that by myself. So we'll partner up together, on that one. And then something for my wife as well. And I have been having that conversation, this week. When I sort of looked at it, the people that are closest to me in my life and the things that people are asking me from me, like, I know you want me, but you can't just have me. You have to have me and my partner, right? And I've realized I can't be everywhere, but I can be if I've got the right people that are partnering with me.
Yeah.
The courage to accept that I can't be everywhere. I'm just like, I just have to accept this is where we're at.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's the perfect thing to be able to wrap up today's episode. What's the best way for people to be able to find out more about you?
IG is probably the best place to find me with all my conversations I had. Coach Hola is my personal one, or Men's Medicine, or you can find us at the Breathe Room Global.
Epic. Thanks for today's episode.
Thank you for having us, brother.